Welcome back to a Windy City They Tan Watch, the channel where truth meets freedom, right here in the heart of Chicago. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest investigations, interviews, and insights. Your support fuels our fight for freedom and truth. So, let's dive into today's journey, armed with knowledge and the relentless spirit of the Windy City.
Howdy, folks. Windy City Thetan Watch. Today we're here. We'll bring our guest on shortly. But this past week, was it Tuesday? Wednesday. Wednesday, we were out. I was out protesting, and I was pleasantly joined by one of our subscribers. On the team. So without further ado, I am going to bring Bridge in. And folks, say welcome to Bridge.
Hey, everyone.
Howdy, Janet from another planet. Great to see you. All right. Today, I want to kind of go over a couple of things. We were out protesting. I'm going to say that partially call to action was answered, but I would say that I think the Bridge was going to be there whether I was asking for help or not. I really do appreciate that she was out there. But let's kind of go over what we're going to do here today. So today's agenda is, right, we're going to do a little bit of welcoming, right? Some housekeeping. I'm going to introduce Bridge, although I'm going to say, hey, Bridge, here you go. And she'll tell us a little bit about herself. And then I'm going to ask her a few questions. I'm going to then also say, what didn't I ask you? We'll see if the chat has any other additional questions for her. And then we'll close with some audience Q&A that might be different than what we're talking about here today. Hey, proper etiquette. Participate, please. Really would love that. Thank you so much, MD Media. I really appreciate that. Howdy, Mexican Long Hair. Great to see you. Let's be kind, be nice, respect one another. The main goal of this channel still is to protest Scientology, and today we're just going to have an interview with Bridge to show one of the ways in which we think that we're protesting Scientology. So, without further ado, Bridge, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I grew up and I was raised in Chicagoland area. Since a few years ago, I have moved out of Illinois, but about March, I saw that the Chicago org was opening. It happened to come across my YouTube feed, and I was really disheartened as what I was seeing, especially I kept watching, and I was just shocked. Since I had gone to school in the area, a few blocks away from the org, it was kind of devastating. And just like everyone else, I kept watching, I kept supporting a lot of the YouTubers and everything else, and definitely thought that at one point in time I would like to go out there and just to support everyone else that's out there, the other protesters, and to be part of, getting rid of Scientology.
When you were last in Chicago, was Printers Row as developed as it is now?
So Printers Row was not, that was about 2001, right? So no.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, right. There would have been, so the very tall residential only buildings probably didn't exist yet, or they were just being built at that point in time. Imprint, for instance, Imprint is only 5 or 6 years old in that space. Excellent. All right. I first want to say thank you so much for coming out on Wednesday. It really was, I found it very helpful that wow, there's somebody else here, and it allowed me to do a couple of other things. And I don't mean to say that, hey, I didn't mean to give you an assistant role in this process, but it was really nice, the idea that if there's more than one person there, we can kind of make some better decisions on how we can track and frustrate the organization in that space. So definitely thank you for that. And then also today, again, you're taking time out of a family vacation to chat with us today. So I really appreciate that as well.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to bring our chat back. Kind of want to go through some of these questions. And by the way, when I'm saying today, I'm really meaning Wednesday. Right. What caused you to come out on Wednesday?
So At that point in time, I had a hotel that was near the area. So as other family members were still asleep or not awake, I did walk around the area. And I was amazed at how many actually Scientologists I did pass. At that point in time, nobody was out there. The shades were already up. And I was too chicken, actually, at that point in time to get the shades down. I really wanted to. It was about 11 o'clock, but I just wanted to survey, because when you watch it on YouTube, it's realistic. But when you actually are out on the street and you actually see in your city all these Sea Orgs like that look like, airline stewardess walking around in the area and everything else, and like I seriously would turn a corner and there would be one, and then I would turn another way and there was another one behind me, and then I'd walk past the business and they're coming out of or they're going in to eat. It was a little disheartening just to see all of them in the area. So I just wanted to take an opportunity during this time to be part of protesting in the little way that I could be.
Excellent. And I'm going to say that, and I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'll say a lot of times I do things that I feel are opportunistic, right? I'm there. Why not? Right? Is kind of the way that a lot of my time works in that space. And I thought that was really cool. I also will say that I don't think that people realize how well established the Chicago organization is. That I've said this so many times. Everybody thought it was the backwaters of Scientology, and they do. There's actively new people in uniforms that I see there on a fairly routine basis. Right, this is not the same. When we were in Lakeview, there were about somewhere between 12 and 25 people that we would see. Now it's somewhere between 75 and 100 that we're seeing there. Cool. Did you have any concerns when you were coming out?
So I think, like I said, my main concern was that I was by myself at the beginning, and that when I walked out there, I just wasn't sure kind of what my role was, or I don't know, the comfort level. I mean, yeah, I grew up in the city of Chicago and I know the city well and everything, but I just didn't want to, I don't know, get myself in trouble, right? So, so I was happy that somebody else was there, because at least it felt more comfortable. And actually, this was my first time as well. So I think those were major concerns as far as what to do and how to approach people or not to approach people, and like so forth, all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to take this off for just a second. That you've spent some time. You had a visit down to the Clearwater area in the past, and what in that were you guys protesting at that point? What was the scenario like when you guys were down in Clearwater?
So I've been in Clearwater, years back, and it was nothing ever there. So you just didn't go there. And I kind of knew Scientology owned all of Clearwater, so there was no point going there. But I did go for the meet and greet with Natalie and Tony and Aaron, and everyone else was there. So before they actually had the meet and greet, they did some protesting in front of the Super Power Building, whatever, and the bridge over there. So that was great, because all of us were there. There was some talking done, and it was neat to have everybody there. But you could see walking around Clearwater how desolate it is, and it's just there's like one street of businesses that's thriving there, if you want to call that thriving. So, but there's definitely an area there where you can probably touch people that are community, just to kind of let them know that protesters are there. So.
Yeah, that one I would say that, and I feel less. I would feel very uncomfortable in Clearwater, because I feel like you're trying to pull people out or re-educate them, reprogram them, and you have such a short amount of time to be able to interact with them if you can't get a conversation going in that short period of time.
Yeah, it's definitely, from walking around in the streets of Chicago versus Clearwater, it's a totally different vibe. As far as being able to interact with people and everything. But I think still people are open to listen. It's just you're targeting different people, right? The community more.
Absolutely. And again, I try to tell people, I might not do it well, but I do try to change my approach when I'm talking to what I'll say is a civilian versus a Scientologist versus a public. And by public, I mean a public Scientologist. So you've got the staff Scientologist and then the public Scientologist. And I do try to interact with them differently because it's a different message that I think is important for them to hear. So our next one is, what were your expectations when you came out?
I don't think you can have any expectations. I didn't know. At first I was going to go buy some chalk and I'm like, I don't know about that and everything else. And I don't know. I think it's what you're comfortable with. I think those are your expectations, right? You take it to what you're comfortable in doing and what you're comfortable in not doing. And maybe next time when I go to Clearwater or when I come back to Chicago or to another org, because, you know, when you vacation, I will definitely visit the other org in the area. I don't know. I don't think it's, I mean, I don't know if I had any expectations. I don't know if I will. Maybe if I continue doing this more in the future and everything else, maybe then I'll set some kind of a plan.
Yeah, 1 second. I wanted to see if I can. Oh, that was very unintentional. Let me
I remember him.
I'm going to take that off and we'll bring this back up. I am going to go over to our banners and remind everybody that if you want to, please head over to Bridge's channel and subscribe. Now, yeah, I would say that I've had some conversation with Bridge. This might be a large scale thing that she's willing to do, and it might be something that she just does from time to time. But again, just if you can go over there and show her the love now, and then if she has an opportunity to be out there, you can be notified that she's going to be out there, and we don't know where we'll see her next, right? So I think it's important that we do that. So, hide that. Come back over to our comments. Folks, if you want to start putting some questions in, we'll come to those after we get through this list of questions. Is there any, what surprised you the most? And I think you already spoke a little bit about it, was that just the number of staff members that you saw out there.
Yeah, that was surprising to see so many out there just for the little time frame I was out there. And just the distance that they were going. I mean, granted, when I was on Michigan Avenue a few days before on the other side, I didn't see them, but the closer I got to the org, definitely it was more visible. And the other thing was, which I know you see it, like I said, it's totally different when you see it on YouTube and you're watching it, right? But the interactions with people for the most part, when you started having a conversation with them and they had that, you know, that propaganda in their hand, they were willing to have that conversation with you. And they were, sometimes it looked like, and sometimes I don't think you see the faces that they had, like the relief, like, oh gosh, like, here you go. Or like, they contact me all the time. Like, you could see that they were aggravated or annoyed or just like, yeah, they're here. They're just an annoyance. And so just having those conversations and those interactions with people, that was really, it's different when you actually do it versus when you actually are watching it.
Right. And one of the things that I notice whenever I do a replay or when I try to make clips for Natalie, as an example, I noticed that I tend to forget that I've got a camera, and there's certain times where I want to give leniency to the person because I'm not comfortable I don't know if they're comfortable being on camera or not. So you're right. I see these expressions all the time. And sometimes it's that sense of my relief or that sense of, oh my gosh, what did I do in that spot? And I need to get better about framing that in there. Now, again, I'm going to tell you that the most important thing for me is to help educate these people and stop them from going in. But I do think that it makes for better YouTube if I can actually get their reactions on face there. Go ahead.
Well, no, like that one gentleman, the first one that I actually took the flyer from and everything from him, it seemed like he gets them all the time and everything else. But maybe this was the first time that actually somebody approached him and he was just like, it kind of probably put into notion how he did not like, you know, that, like he knew Scientology was a bad thing, but also it kind of confirmed it for him, right? Like, yeah, these are it's a horrible organization, and they keep on contacting me. And so hopefully by giving him a little bit more information, it's more than him just getting the propaganda all the time, even though he's gotten it multiple times.
Yeah. And I think that's important, right? I've made statements, and some people have kind of come at me on this. Most of us who watch anti-Scientology, we're in a bubble. And I'm not saying that as a negative element, that we hear so much about the church that we think that everybody in the universe knows how evil this organization is. And it's always surprising to me that, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was the Church of Scientology. And then, oh my gosh, I didn't know that they were involved in some of these criminal behaviors in regards to what was going on there. So never let your guard down, and never assume that everybody knows what's going on in this space. And you're right, it is helpful to. I've had civilians in the area come up and say, "Thank you for what you're doing. I didn't know what they were all about, so I appreciate that." So, our next question: what would you have done anything differently?
Just probably rephrase some of the words in my head a little bit more. I have a lot of the Scientology verbiage in my head and everything else, but as I was talking to people, it became word salad, right? I said things wrong and everything else, but I think that just comes over time and practice. Yeah.
And it's been my experience. Yes, I think I've gotten better at that interaction, but I would also tell you that I do make mistakes. The one that I remember so just out there was there was a CTA driver who had just gotten a flyer, and I went up to them and I said, "Hey, it's called Scientology, and that do you know who Danny Masterson is?" And then I said something like, 3 women abused him instead of he abused 3 women. Right. Now, I would say that I think the story got across as to what I was saying in that space, but it was like, you idiot, and I might be the only one that actually heard it the way that I said it in that space. But you do get used to it. And I will say that it's still, I feel like I've got such a short time to get attention and get them to settle or have a conversation with me. So I oftentimes will abbreviate what I'm talking about just to make sure that I can at least get the outline to them before we have the conversation.
Right. And that's why, Windy, I think it's important for somebody to kind of be around with you, because those conversations that you have, like the other day when we were out, you were able to have a conversation with somebody, give them the card, take away the propaganda from them. But in the meantime, I was able to stay back and just kind of answer a little bit more of their questions, or their puzzled looks on their face. Like, what is this?
Who was that crazy bald man that just went by?
Well, it wasn't necessarily you, but also like, what is this okay, why did he walk by, take that away from us, but also what is this Scientology thing? And so it just kind of maybe gave them a little bit more of questioning it, maybe researching it, really finding out for themselves what it is about.
Right. And one of the things, I went back and watched Bridge also videoed that day, and so she's got the more YouTube-friendly vertical aspect ratio in that.
Not intentionally.
But there was a couple of things that I didn't comprehend in real time. When we first made contact that day, you had a flyer in hand because you had intercepted it. I got the impression that you had intercepted that 30 minutes ago. And when I rewatched your video, it's like, oh my gosh, they were right behind me when this happened. So they were following me down the sidewalk. And then we talked about this just before it came on, the idea that when you were walking down the sidewalk, headed to make the left-hand turn to go to the alley, they were right on your tail.
Yeah, and so that's why it's important, to definitely have more than one set of eyes out there, because as you were walking away, they were right behind you, and as you turned the corner, I basically was able to intersect more people that they were handing out the propaganda to, because they didn't know that I was coming from the other side of the street or who I was, because I passed right by them.
And I do like that you do get a couple of free passes in the first few times that you're out there, because you blend in with the crowd, right? I don't think that I get any more free passes. That my expectation is that there are pictures of my face in that organization saying "bad, evil, stay away."
True. Unless you get some wigs, some glasses, change of shirts. I don't know.
I want to get my mullet on that. The other one that I really enjoyed when I watched the replay was just what you were talking about, that idea that I was able to move on to the next flyer, and when I did that, you were able to continually engage with the people that I just met with. And had I stayed back, I'd have lost the opportunity to talk to the next person, and by my going forward, I might not be giving a complete picture to the person that I'm leaving behind in that space. So that was, I really was impressed by it. It just seemed like a very natural thing for you to do at that point in time. It felt natural anyhow.
Yeah, and actually, since there was two of them, they started at one point in time separating, right? And so then we were kind of able to kind of separate as well, where you wouldn't have been able to do that. You would have had to make a choice at that time to go one way or the other.
Yep. All right. My last question is, what are the questions you thought I should have asked, and what haven't I asked that I should have?
I don't know. You're pretty thorough. I'm not sure if there's anything that I wouldn't have asked. I don't know. It's really hard. It's really easy when you're watching this and you're on the other end and you're putting comments in the section and you're telling the streamer what to say and everything else because you're at home. So definitely, if you can, because it is really hard to watch people as they're making comments and everything else. Sometimes, look to see what they say. Sometimes they have a great suggestion, but I don't think there's anything personally that in your own repertoire that you don't have down pat already.
Yeah. And again, I want to say that doesn't mean that I do things right. I will say I've gotten used to the way that I do things on that. Something I want to let everybody know, that if you email me and you want to come down and you want to have the comfort of, hey, there's somebody else there, or you want to ask me some questions in any way, shape, or form, I'm more than happy to help you. I'm going to say, let's keep it related to Scientology, protesting Scientology, and stopping the body routers. But I'm really good about answering my email in these situations. So definitely, if you feel like, hey, I want to learn how to do it, I want to have a buddy when I go do it, let me know. On the weekends, I will typically send out emails to everybody that I know is in the area to let them know that what my agenda is for the day. But during the weekdays, I'm really trying to. I've got clients that I need to adhere to, so it's really usually I'm going out there at lunchtime or just after lunch. But I can't I can't plan the weekdays as well as I can plan the weekends. We did have a question from James. So James is asking, I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'll go ahead and read it.
Okay.
It's for you. Were you intending to meet Windy or filling time before collecting your daughter?
No, actually, she doesn't know this, but part of my plan was to make some part to protest. I just didn't know how or when I was going to do that because I had family obligations. So there was reasons why I picked hotels in the area.
Right.
So that was my intention. Like I said, my intention was to go out there on my own and everything else. But I do know that also protesters have been out there. They know the area. They know what's been going on. It would just be in my benefit just to kind of just get a feel and just to hear kind of what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And it's the same thing if when I go back to Florida, same thing. I'll ask the protesters in that area as well. I think that just makes sense.
Yeah. And this is my opinion. And as I've been so clear to state on my channel, my opinion is fairly important, that different organizations have different personas, feelings, atmosphere. If I look at it, Chicago, Seattle, Portland, they're in urban areas. They're on the sidewalk. They have very glass retail frontages where the people that go to those orgs, they go to those orgs by foot. Even if they've driven to the org, they need to park someplace else and get to the org by foot. So that's a different, it offers you different ways of protesting. When we think about Denver, right? So Denver, you've got that parking lot, and if the people wanted to, they can pretty much stay in that parking lot until the last 10 feet before they go in the front door. I think there's even a side door there, and there's a couple of organizations like that. It's like, hey, this is a little bit more challenging because now you have to be pretty vocal to get somebody's attention. That they don't have to walk past you in those scenarios. And I think LA, Hollywood is very much similar to what we've got in Chicago, other than the fact that there's a bazillion people out there in Hollywood compared to what we've got here in Chicago. So, and Clearwater, again, it's just a different, there's a different atmosphere to those buildings. So, I don't ever want anybody to think that there's a way to protest. There's 1,000 ways to protest, and even in Chicago, we have different behavioral styles in regards to what's going on here. The one thing that I'm going to say, compassion. The Corn put out these ribbons that had affirmative sayings on them and tied them to the tree in the park the other day. And I thought, wow, that's just really meaningful and impactful. And if somebody comes across that, that's going to hit them different than the way that I protest in that space. And it's important that we have a bazillion ways to do this kind of work. So, Jules giving us some credit here, but Bridge, again, great job. Thanks for being there. And I think I saw earlier from Corn. Oh, Corn said that she would always watch you. Oh, there we go. And again, I also want to say that not only is Bridge been out here as an activist now, she has always been, from day one, you were a very early watcher of my channel. You were a very early watcher of most of the other channels that are here in Chicago. And I definitely see you in many of the other channels as well. So your presence is known and it's very much appreciated that we do get that support. And it's important that we get the support as creators in that space.
Yeah, I was really disturbed when I saw that huge org opening up, because I remember like driving down the other location with, family and everything else. And it looked like a desolate, abandoned, building. And it was like, okay, it's a joke. They're not, it doesn't look like anybody's entered there in years and eons, but seeing all this happen and everything else, it's disheartening.
Yeah. I remember when near the opening, we were all pretty much based in Lakeview. And because most of my clients were down here, I would come past this org before it was open. And I'm like, there is a lot of people in uniform walking up and down these streets and going into that building. I think something's going on. It was definitely that idea that something is happening here. We weren't really seeing it. Now, Shannon was the first one to see the invite, and I think that it was a under the radar from Kansas City that saw it laying on a counter in Kansas City, and that was how we got the, let's say, official notice that it was going to be March 3rd in that space. But there were indications that things were things were afoot prior to that happening. So, all right. I want to let you get back to your family vacation. I really, really appreciate having seen you on Wednesday. Was awesome. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here today. Anything else you want to share with the audience?
Absolutely. I just think everybody has their part, no matter how big, how small, and in all different ways. And I think that's what actually is going to make us more viable in getting rid of Scientology, because we each are doing it a different way.
Yep. Agreed. Thank you. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed what we're talking about today. This is it. I want everybody to think it's really easy to come out here and protest. It is not. There's not a high burden in this scenario. I'm more than happy to help you with whatever questions you might have, or if you want the comfort of a buddy, let me know. Please make sure that you're subscribing, sharing both channels. Definitely appreciate that. And we want to make the pie bigger. So share this with anybody who you think might get value out of what we're doing here. So, all right, folks, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bridge, you have a great day. Enjoy time with your family.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, everybody.